Hey, what's up, everybody? It's Charles Sabanson, and welcome you guys to another episode of the Dreamers Pro Show, where we cover everything from sports, hot topics, classic debates, entertainment, when we give you guys a fresh perspective on things and how we see them. And today we got a great show for y'all, but before we get into it, please make sure you like the video and sub to the channel. So let's get into today's topic here. So the NBA is about to kick off in the next 3 or 4 weeks. Very soon we're going to be having media day, and then from that, training camp, and then before you know it, preseason, and then the NBA season. And there's a lot of things going on this new season, obviously, with the NBA now signing up to basically partnering up with a lot of these streaming companies to be carrying some of their games. We have that as well. And we also have the TNT crew joining ESPN. Now, over the last few months, we've kind of chronicled this story, talked about some of the things that Kenny Smith has said, Shaq has said, Charles Barkley has said, and the overarching message has been these guys don't really know what to expect coming down the turnpike. Now, if you know anything about Inside the NBA, it's a very long show, and really where the magic happens is usually during the halftime, but especially in the post-game show, where guys can just kind of let it fly, be themselves, and give you their unadulterated views on things. But now these guys coming to ESPN, things are beginning to change. But the problem is some of them don't know what change is awaiting them. So this morning I was going through the internet here, and I came across an interview that Charles Barkley did. This interview was published, let me see, a day ago on the Smile Show, right? It was about an hour and 17 minute interview. And it said Charles Barkley on Ryder Cup trash talk, plus Rory's bulletin board material and all of that. So apparently they got to a point where they were talking about Charles Barkley's career on TV, his 25 plus year career on TV. And they were talking about his upcoming partnership with ESPN. And once again, Charles Barkley is calling out the network over their lack of communication going into next season. So for those of you who didn't hear the comments that Barkley had to make, want to play his comments for you now and then come back and react to what he had to say. Take a listen to Charles here.
And you see ESPN, on the bottom ticker. Is that going to be something that's going to be different for you? Because, you had to have a lot of pride with your show being on TNT for so many years. And I'm sure that there was times where you'd look at the opponents, their post-game shows over at ESPN and thinking, man, they can't hold a candle to what we can do. And now all of a sudden you got ESPN on your bottom ticker of your show.
Yeah, there is some trepidation and nervousness for several reasons. Number one, it's going to be totally new, but and there's been a really lack of communications from everybody because I don't think nobody know what's going to happen, to be honest. So, the best part of our show is like that 45 minutes to an hour we get to go crazy after the game. That's the best part of our show. Our question, in which we haven't got an answer for, is, do we have to go right to Sports Center? Or when we on ABC, do we go right to local? Those are two important questions that we actually getting together in about 2 weeks and going to finally sit down with ESPN face to face and says, hey, can y'all tell us how this thing is going to work? Because I've talked to some of their people. They're like, sometimes we get like 3 minutes. They're like, we got to go local. We got to go to the local affiliate. So that's it. You got 2 to 3 minutes. I'm like, we could even discuss what happened in the game in 2 to 3 minutes. We're stuck. Or they're like, you got 7 minutes or 10 minutes, then you got to go to Sports Center. To me, that would really hurt our show because you can't really tell what happened in a game in 2 or 3 minutes. Like I like to explain what happened, but good coaching. I think the coach made a mistake. The player made a mistake here. And so it's all going to be new. But to answer your question, it's going to be weird. But the weirdest thing is like, man, do we have to go right to local news right now? Or do we have to go right to Sports Center? How much time do we have after the game to actually talk basketball? Because that's when we had some of our best communications. But we don't know. Well, like I said, we're going to get together. I think it's the 24th. They sent us out a mass email, say, hey, can you guys be in Atlanta? ESPN is going to come down and want to explain everything. Sure, let's do it.
Did you consider retiring
I
through
did.
all this? You did?
Well, I did for a couple reasons. The reason I didn't retire, we got to keep everybody hired. You know, the last year really sucked for me, Smiley, to be honest with you, because, you know, I've always lived in a fantasy world where I've been around risk jocks and my friends. But to be around people who talk about their mortgage, having their kids have to switch schools, it was really painful because, you know, I've known these people for 25 years and we never thought we were going to lose the NBA. But to be around my friends and having them say, yo, I got to find a job because I got to worry about my mortgage. I'm about to send my kids to a different school. That was really painful for me and Ernie, Kenny, and Shaq because we would have been fine.
Mm-hmm.
So in my mind, I had decided to okay, I don't know if I want to do this. And me and Ernie are always stepping together. And then when this opportunity came up, because I met with NBC and Amazon, and even if I went to one of those networks, I would have a whole new team more than likely. So I was concerned about that. Mm-hmm. And then all of a sudden, this thing with ESPN came up, and I was like, wait a minute, we can keep 200 people jobs who I really like and admire. Let's do it.
So you heard what he had to say. Folks, it's September. We're going towards the middle of September. And they still don't know what to expect. Now, he did say they're supposed to be having meetings in the next 2 weeks. But man, it's pretty late in the game. That's the first thing. The second thing, if you listen carefully to what he said, he spoke about what I mentioned at the top of the show, which was the end of the post-game show. How's that going to work? Are they only going to have 15 minutes to give you their thoughts and then cut over to SportsCenter? Is that how it's going to work? I'm also hearing from other sources that this show is not even going to be a weekly show. They may come on once, like at the beginning of the season. Then the next time you may see them is on Christmas Day. And I'm like, what's going on here? Now, what I do like is the reasons why Charles is motivated to keep this thing going, which is because of the 200 staff members that are connected to that show. 200 staff members? That means this show must be making hundreds of millions of dollars a year. To pay a staff of 200? 200 people? If they were paying these people, and of course you have Charles and all of these guys. So let's remove the top front-facing talent. Let's move the executives. Let's say the top 190 people. Let's say you're paying 190 people an average salary of $5,000. That means your overhead just on those people is $95,000 a month. That's at $5,000, right? Then you have Charles and all of those guys, and let's assume the average is high. These guys, this is a very expensive show. But anyway, back to what he said about them wanting to ensure that they kept people's jobs. I think that's a noble thing to do. But it still doesn't change from the fact that this thing still seems very confusing. And my opinion is this. I think that Charles is probably just doing this, obviously to get a check, but also to ensure that these people have a job. And that's about it. I don't think he is. I think there's a level of motivation there, but I also think there's a level of skepticism based on the fact that they still don't understand what's going on. And he's not the only one that said this. Shaq has said as much. We've done shows reacting to what Shaq had to say, and Shaq himself has said, I don't know what to expect. He isn't the only one. Kenny Smith said the same thing. But if it's supposed to be this thing where they're only going to be reacting to games for 15 minutes, I don't know how interested I would be in watching something like that. Now, I'm going to watch to see if it works and how they pull it off. But I guess we have to see. People like Bill Simmons are worried that they feel like ESPN is going to screw up the show. Only time will tell. You guys leave your thoughts in the comments. We catch you on the next show. Peace.